Welcome back, Bridge students. This is the first of two videos that are going to describe your quiz, your project-based quiz for our tables chapter. That's chapter 15. Just like chapter 14, this is a project-based quiz, not a book quiz. And I'm doing that on purpose. It's because I want you to learn the really useful professional skill of making tables. Tables are everywhere, just like scatter plots. Okay, so how do you do that in Google Docs? First you make sure to go into your assignment for this week. It has to be your assignment for this week. And then you're going to go to create, and you're going to create a Google Doc. You're going to write a title, like mine says my frequency table analysis project with a name. You would write your name. And then you're going to go to the upper right. I want you to look within Google Docs to the upper right, and you'll see that there's a plus sign. And you touch the plus sign. It brings the drop-down menu. The fourth thing down says table. You're going to click on table. And then you have to decide how many rows, how many columns you're going to have. And that's something to think about in advance. Like I'll typically sketch a table out beforehand so that I don't have to go back and fix this up. The table that I'm going to work with is the same one that I used in the previous videos dealing with burger preference. But you can make any table you want, but the table has to be connected to two different variables, and they have to be categorical data. And again, by categorical data, I mean something like maybe gender or burger preference. Things that are kind of either or categories, not things like height or weight. That's numerical data, and you would analyze that in a scatter plot. Okay, so or you can just if you don't want to make up your own table, you can do it exactly like I'm going to do here. I'm going to click Insert Table. My first step, and I'm not very good at this on my touch screen, so let's see if I can do this properly. Oh, good. I'm going to highlight my top cells here. These are called cells. And you'll see that in the upper right, not the far upper right where the plus sign is, but down in the menu, there's a little square with two arrows going in. This is the third from the right. I'm going to click that. That merges those cells. I'm going to click on it. I personally think it's more professional looking to give a little bit of shading to my title. So I can give it a bit of a gray shading. That's not required, but I think it's a classy look. I'm going to center. I'm in bold. Again, that's up to you. You can play with the font up where it says A up in the upper right. I can make my font just a little bit bigger here for my title. I can make it 14 point up here. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to start typing, and it said, just like yesterday, burger joint preference by school. Okay? Maybe you're not into burgers. Make up your own table. Vegetarian food by school. Indian versus tofu. I mean, I don't know. It's up to you. Pinkerton, Toby Johnson. You could make it Cosumnes Oaks versus Franklin. It doesn't matter. Male versus female. Total. Could be male versus female versus gender fluid. I don't really care. But you need to have categorical data variables. I do care about that. And I'm going to stick with the one I made up yesterday. Once again, total. All right. So then I have my main title. I have my subtitles for the rows. The rows again go across. The columns go down. And then you'll want to notice that you have to have totals both on the right and on the bottom. This is really important for a strong frequency table. I'm going to type in the data from yesterday. 6, 12, 10, 28. If you're doing this and you like my categories, maybe you don't like my numbers. Maybe you would prefer that Pinkerton students like Five Guys. I mean, actually right now they prefer Five Guys. More of them do. we have a greater frequency count for Five Guys. Maybe you want to set it up so that there's a greater frequency count for In-N-Out. It's up to you, as long as the numbers add up. This is made up data. If we're dealing with real data, you can't make it up, obviously. It's really important to be honest when you're dealing with statistics, both in terms of the numbers presented and how you present them. It does matter. Let's see, I'm gonna go here. I'd actually, in some ways, love to add another row. Let's see if I can do that. Ooh, I bet you I can. Yes. So the reason I did that, by the way, by going into the table, clicking in the upper left, which highlights the whole table. And then there's a little button up to the upper right that has a plus sign on the bottom. You'll see that in a little row. That just added a row. It's always good to have in a table, it's classy, I think, to have a source. And here I'm spending time learning how to properly click in the table. Let's see if this works. Yes. I'm learning it, guys. The world of touch screens. You guys are already experts. I'm going to merge this here again. That's the two arrows facing each other. I'm going to say source. Data made up by Mr. Mitchell. It's not bad to say that. It's by, in a way, you can think of this as in terms of language arts, really. Here, I'm going to try one more time to get this exactly the right way. I can think of this in terms of language. You could think of this in terms of language arts and in terms of claims, rhetorical claims, like Mr. Newborn talks about. So we're making a very strong kind of claim to logos and kind of ethos as well. If you remember ethos, pathos, and logos from Mr. Newborn or Ms. Hammond. Well, I'll just leave it in that font. Usually the source data would be in a smaller font. But in any case, it's important to label your source because by talking about data, you are adopting a very powerful persona, a very expert kind of persona, you could say. And in doing that, with power comes responsibility. Here, I'm going to center my numbers. And you want to be careful and you want to be very clear about your sources. Okay. And in the next video, I'm going to teach you the next steps in terms of where we go from here for your project.